Yeah, he is speaking in Washington. Let's listen in to the U.S. president.
Information that we had that really should remain at a very high level. Could we individually maybe give one or two of them some information? Possibly, if we can do that. I get along great with Mike Lee. I've never seen him like that. But other people have called and they've said it was the best presentation they've ever seen. And let me tell you what was the best. Forget about presentation, the result. We killed a man who killed many, many Americans and many, many people, thousands and thousands of people. And when I go over to Walter Reed and I meet these young, incredible folks, mostly, it just seems mostly men, but also women, where their legs are gone, their arms are gone. In some cases, both the legs and the arms are gone, and the face and the body is badly damaged. And frankly, 5 years ago, they couldn't have lived, and today they can live because of the wonders of medicine and the wonders of Walter Reed and the people over there, what the job they do, the medical doctors. But I will say this, we caught a total monster, and we took him out, and that should have happened a long time ago. We did it because they were looking to blow up our embassy. We also did it for other reasons that were very obvious. Somebody died. One of our military people died. People were badly wounded just a week before, and we did it. And we had a shot at him, and I took it, and that shot was pinpoint accurate, and that was the end of a monster. And that was the second attack. It was not, we didn't start it. They started by killing one of our people and wounding badly other of our people. So that you call retribution. Ukraine, if you look at what happened with Ukraine, that's a hoax. Well, this is a hoax, too. Iran went in, and they hit us with missiles. Shouldn't have done that, but they hit us. Fortunately for them, nobody was hurt, nobody was killed, nothing happened. They landed, very little damage even to the base. They landed. But we had a chance to take out a monster. We took him out, and it should have been done a long time ago.
Would you go to Congress to take further military action against Iran? Would you seek congressional approval?
It would all depend on the circumstance. I don't have to, and you shouldn't have to be able, because you have to make split-second decisions sometimes. Sometimes you have to move very, very quickly, John. But in certain cases, I wouldn't even mind doing it. So, you know what bothers me? When I see a Nancy Pelosi trying to defend this monster from Iran who's killed so many people, who's so badly, I mean, so many people are walking around now without legs and without arms, because he was the big roadside bomb guy. He was the one who'd send them to Afghanistan, he'd send them to Iraq. He was big. That was his favorite thing. He thought it was wonderful. He doesn't think it's wonderful anymore. When Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats want to defend him, I think that's a very bad thing for this country. I think that's a big losing argument politically, too. Yeah.
So anyway, outside the JCPOA and also with total sanctions implemented, what's left if
Just
Iran...
so you understand on JCPOA, it's close to expiring. In other words, if I didn't terminate it, it expires in a very short period of time. One of the problems, of which there was many, $150 billion, $1.8 billion in cash, all of that money, and then that money was used for terror. Because if you look at Iran, it wasn't so bad until they got all that money. They used that money for terror. That's when it became really bad. You just take a look. I mean, it really got bad when they had $150 billion, $1.8 billion in cash. The agreement, I always call it the Iran nuclear deal that didn't work. The Iran deal, it was just something that is no good for our country. It expires in a short time. That means they would be on their path to nuclear weapons. And for me, it's about nuclear weapons more than anything else. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. They understand that. We have told them very strongly. Iran now is not wealthy like it was when President Obama handed them $150 billion. They're a much different country. We'll see whether or not they want to negotiate. Maybe they want to wait till after the election and negotiate with a weak Democrat, somebody like a Biden or a Pocahontas or Buttigieg or one of these characters. Okay, maybe they want to wait. But I think they're probably well off doing it now because if you look at the polls and if you look at what's going on, we're doing very well. They're losing a tremendous amount. They're getting hurt very badly by the sanctions. It all can end very quickly. But as to whether or not they want, that's up to them. Not up to me. It's totally up to them. They can straighten out their country. Iran right now is a mess. They can straighten out the economics of their country very, very quickly. Let's see whether or not they negotiate.
Sanctions. When should we expect to see sanctions on Iran following the attack?
Immediately.
Tomorrow?
It's already been done. Yeah,
This week?
We've increased them. They were very severe, but now it's increased substantially. I just approved it a little while ago with Treasury.
And who will they be against, and what sort of sanctions?
Well, you'll see. I mean, we'll put out a minor announcement. It's actually a major event. It's like this. This is, to me, a major event, and so far I have had no questions on the fact that we can build a highway in, a small fraction of the time, that we can build all of these beautiful bridges that we want to build, but they can't get approvals. I've had no questions on that. Are you shocked, Sean, when you hear that?
No,
I mean,
Mr. President.
honestly, they should be having some questions. Okay, yeah, John, go ahead.
Mr. President, the plane that went down coming from Iran, what do you
Terrible.
think happened to that plane?
Well, I have my suspicions. It was very, I don't want to say that because other people have those suspicions also. It's a tragic thing when I see that. It's a tragic thing. But somebody could have made a mistake on the other side. Could have made a mistake. It was flying. It was flying in not our system. No, it has nothing to do with us. It was flying in a pretty rough neighborhood, and somebody could have made a mistake. Some people say it was mechanical. I personally don't think that's even a question, personally. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to get. That's up to them. At some point, they'll release the black box. Ideally, they'd get it to Boeing, but if they gave it to France or if they gave it to some other country, that would be okay, too. I think, ideally, that will be released. I have a feeling that it's just something very terrible happened. Very devastating.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
the situation in Venezuela has not gone as smoothly as some people, likely even yourself, have hoped. What are you prepared to do
Well,
differently?
I never thought it would go smoothly. Venezuela hasn't gone smoothly since it became a socialist or worse than that country. So I never expected anything to go smoothly. We'll see what happens with Venezuela. They're doing poorly. I mean, there's a great case when I say this country will never be a socialist nation. There's a great case. It was a wealthy country 15 years ago, 20 years ago. That was like a really wealthy country. And now they don't have water. They don't have food. We're supplying a lot of food. We're supplying a lot of water. So, no, it takes a period of time. It's been, I've only been here a relatively short period of time. We'll see what happens.
Are you prepared to do anything else, change the
Well, I'm not going to
strategy?
say that. No, we have a good strategy, but we're taking care of people. We're helping people. Colombia is helping a lot of people. Some of the nations surrounding are helping people. But I think we're doing a good job. They have a system that right now is very broken. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned.
Mr. President, you said Iran was trying to blow up the embassy in Baghdad. Can you provide more details on what that plot was?
No, I think it was obvious. If you look at the protests, and this was the anti-Benghazi. Benghazi was a disaster. They showed up a long time after it took place. They saw burning embers from days before. I said, get out today, immediately. They were saying, we think we can have them tomorrow. I said, nope, they got to go right now. And they were on their way very quickly, and they got there they got there quickly. They could have done that with Benghazi, too, by the way, same thing. Had they gotten there, had they done what I did, you wouldn't know the name Benghazi. It would not be a very famous name. Now it's a very famous name. This was the anti-Benghazi. We got the Apaches there very quickly. They were doing the flares. People didn't know what was happening. But if you look at those protesters, they were rough warriors. They weren't protesters. They were Iranian-backed. Some were from Iraq, but they were Iranian-backed, absolutely, and they were looking to do damage, and they were breaking the windows. And, those are very structurally strong windows, as you know, and they were almost through. And had they gotten through, I believe we would have either had a hostage situation or we would have had we would have had a lot of people killed. Those people were going to do very serious harm. They were soldiers. They were warriors, and we stopped it. We stopped it. That was a totally organized plot, and you know who organized it. That man right now is not around any longer, okay? And he had more than that particular embassy in mind.
Do you have a problem with John Bolton testifying in the Senate trial?
Always got along with him. He didn't get along with some of our people, but that's really going to be up to the Senate. It's always up. I don't stop it, no, but he would It would be now. I do have to. I'd have to ask the lawyers because we do have to me, for the future, we have to protect presidential privilege. When we start allowing national security advisors to just go up and say whatever they want to say, we can't do that. So we have to protect presidential privilege for me, but for future presidents. That's very important. I would have no problem other than we have to protect. We have to be able to protect. People can't go up and say whatever my thoughts are, whatever your thoughts are about us, countries, views. You don't want that to be out. So we have to protect presidential privilege. Yeah.
So, Mr. President, you said yesterday you want NATO to do more. Could you be a little more, provide a little more detail on what you wanted?
Right.
And have you gotten any indication from them that they want to do more?
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday. I spoke to Secretary General yesterday, and we had a great conversation. He was very, I think he was actually excited by it. And I actually had a name, NATO, right? And then you have ME, Middle East. You'll call it NATOME. I said, what a beautiful name, NATOME. I'm good at names, right? USMCA, like the song, YMCA. Everybody, nobody could remember USMCA. I said, think of the song, YMCA. Now everybody says it. They don't remember the previous name of a bad deal, okay? Commonly known as NAFTA. No, if you add the two words Middle East at the end of it, because that's a big problem. That's a big source of problems. And NATOME, doesn't that work beautifully, John? Think of that. NATO plus me. And obviously he's not getting it. He's not smiling. He used to smile. Before I ran, he was smiling. Now he's not smiling. So, you know what I'm talking about.
But more NATO personnel in the region? Is that what you're
as
seeking?
opposed to us, to be honest with you, because this is an international problem. And we can come home, or largely come home, and use NATO. This is an international problem. We caught ISIS. We did Europe a big favor. We got 100% of the caliphate. We have thousands and thousands of ISIS fighters are killed, and thousands, tens of thousands are in prison right now. And Europe doesn't want them. It's not right. They want to go to France. They want to go to Germany. They want to go to UK. They want to go to these countries where they came from. That's their home. The U.S. is not their home. They want to go. It's not fair that we're holding these people and that other countries aren't taking because we're bearing the cost. So I think that NATO should be expanded and we should include the Middle East. Absolutely. And we pay for a big percentage of NATO. And by the way, if you look at and speak to Secretary General Stoltenberg, who's doing a terrific job, by the way, he will tell you that I raised $130 billion more than they were getting. It was going down from past administrations every single year. It was down to a very low number. I came in, I said, got to pay, folks, got to pay. We're working with you, we're protecting you, we're a part of this, you got to pay. We don't want to be the fools like we have been for so many years. So we raised $130 billion almost immediately. We had a meeting with all of the countries. I said, you got to pay. I mean, I can imagine they don't like me as much as Obama and other people, but I got to pay. We're protecting you, got to pay. We got $130 billion more, not 130 more. In fact, my biggest fan in the whole world is Secretary General Stoltenberg, because he can't believe it. And now he just announced $530 billion we've gotten under my watch. And so we're in great shape with that whole situation. And I think NATO should be helping us now with the Middle East. Having an international flavor there is good. Plus, you had a deal signed with many of these countries that are in NATO. So, you know, the economic deal with Iran. So I have actually said that I think the scope of NATO should be increased, and they should be looking for ISIS. Will help. But right now, the burden's on us, and that's not been fair. But we've done a great job with ISIS. When I came in 3 years ago, ISIS was all over the place. It was a disaster. And now ISIS is the caliphate. 100% of the caliphate is gone. 100%. And we have tens of thousands of prisoners. Well, we have them in prison. But they should be taken, and Europe should be helping with that burden. But I like the idea of NATO expanding their views.
Since the environment is part of the issue we're talking about today, since the environment is something that is on the table here today, what is your position on global warming? Do you think it's a hoax? Do you think something needs to be done?
Nothing's a hoax. Nothing's a hoax about that. It's a very serious subject. I want clean air. I want clean water. I want the cleanest air, want the cleanest water. The environment's very important to me. Somebody wrote a book that I'm an environmentalist. It actually called The Environmentalist, actually, before I did this. But they wrote a book. I'd like to get it. I have it in the other office. So I'll bring it to my next news conference.
All right, you've been listening to the U.S. President Donald Trump speaking live there in Washington. He has touched on lots of different subjects, everything from the killing of General Soleimani to the vote in Congress, the JCPOA, sanctions on Iran.